Hey guys, how are y'all doing today? It's your friend Matt here again, and welcome back to another Borderlands 2 video. It's been a good, I don't know, like 2 months since I posted my last Borderlands 2 video, and so the reason why we're back today is because of Digistruct Peak. And today's video is going to be soloing Digistruct Peak, the max overpowered level with the Siren. So, before anything else, we'll go straight over the gear. Binary Ruby for healing. A lot of people don't approve of the Grog nozzle, so I'll leave that out for this video. We have the shock version of the Sandhawk, and we also have the corrosive version of the Sandhawk. The shock elemental version of the Sandhawk is my main all-purpose weapon throughout this campaign, I guess you would say. Prudential Norfleet, corrosive, I end up using the fire Norfleet later on, not in this video, but in general, I don't use the corrosive version than the time I actually recorded this video. I use the fire now because it works better with immolates. Legendary Cat class mod, one of the new class mods. Before you saw the Inflammable the Bee, and the new Cat class mod increases your SMG gun damage by a ton, but it also drops its accuracy a good amount as well. Magic Missile Grenade mod, and the relic you just saw was the shock version of the Bone of the Ancients. And then I also point out another item in my inventory, which is the corrosive version of the Bone of the Ancients. So those both are very important, both those relics. And the reason why I use the shock Sandhawk, you know what? Never mind, I'll explain that later because it takes a while to explain why I use the shock Sandhawk. And that is my Siren build. That's my level 72 Siren build. It's all-purpose build, not just made for Digistruct Peak. That's my build that I use all the time when I'm at level 72 with the Siren. So, didn't change anything just for Digistruct Peak. That's just the way it is. Anyways, let's get into it. I'm going to be cutting through all of the boring parts, or the parts that I thought were boring, because personally, I don't think a 40-minute video would be very enjoyable, but your opinion may be different. I just personally don't think that I would want to record a commentary for 40 minutes, so I'm probably going to cut this video down to about, like, maybe 15 minutes, 10 minutes? Yeah, hopefully around 10 minutes, but probably not, because there's a lot of stuff that I do want to show you guys. But 40-minute commentary? Absolutely not. I'd die. That'd kill me straight away. Anyways, so a bunch of stages that you go throughout this this whole Digistruct Peak thing. If you guys are not aware of what Digistruct Peak is, it's basically an area where you fight lots and lots of enemies, and yeah, that's the only way I know how to describe it. And then as you finish off more rounds of Digistruct Peak, you will unlock more areas and unlock harder levels. You can basically overpower to the higher levels, so you get Overpower plus 1, which is basically 73, Overpower plus 2, which is level 74, and so on until you get to Overpowered plus 8, which is basically level 80. And throughout this entire campaign, you fight a bunch of different of the mini-bosses that you normally see in the regular Borderlands 2 game, and I know that sounds a little weird, but basically you fight enemies like Dukino's mom right here. As you can see, she is a bit of a challenge at this stage, but you won't actually have her in the earlier rounds of Digistruct Peak. So if you're like Overpower plus 2, you don't actually have to fight Dukino's mom. I think you fight Scorch instead down here, but once you get into later rounds, you do fight Dukino's mom. She is pretty difficult at some points, but as long as you play it safe, then you'll be good to go. That's basically all you do with the Siren. You just play like a little sissy, and you'll end up getting it done. If you guys saw at the beginning, all of my gear is overpowered level 8. It's not my level 72 gear. All of it is overpowered level 8. So it's kind of important to have the gear that you're actually at. When you're at like overpowered level 5, it'd be a lot more helpful to have overpowered level 5 gear rather than your normal level 72 gear. Although it is very possible to complete this whole thing with your level 72 gear. I've tried it myself. You can go up all the way to overpowered plus 8 and complete it with your 72 gear. I just didn't feel like doing it in this video because it is pretty long, and I did fail quite a few times before I actually succeeded, and it would have taken way too long to record. But anyways, back onto topic here. What was I talking about? Digistruct Peak. So about all the enemies and everything. You'll get different kinds of enemies as you go throughout the levels of Digistruct Peak. You'll also unlock new areas once you get into the higher stages of the overpowered levels. And that's pretty much it. That's how it works. And it is pretty much relatively the same if you're on the same level. So let's say you fight all these enemies, a pattern of enemies in overpowered level 8. Chances are you're going to fight that same amount of enemies and same types of enemies. Once again, it's not going to change or anything like that when you do it. It may change a little. It does change a little bit, but not that much. All the mini bosses that you'll be fighting are pretty much the same. Nothing's going to change when you're on the same level. Anyways, what was I going to talk about next? Why am I using the Shock Sandhawk? You may be asking, you could use a Fire Sandhawk with a Fire Damage Relic, and then a Corrosive Relic with a Corrosive Sandhawk, and that would be more effective against whichever types of enemies that are susceptible to those elements. And the reason why I don't do that is because there are a huge variety of enemies. You'll often be fighting enemies that are susceptible to fire damage and enemies that are susceptible to corrosive damage at the same time, so you just don't want to have to switch between those two weapons and or relics at the same, at all times. It's just, it would just be a real pain in the butt and just wouldn't work out too well. It'll mess you up pretty bad. So using the Shock Sandhawk, obviously almost all enemies are vulnerable to shock damage. No enemies are, I shouldn't say that, no enemies are invulnerable to shock damage, or no, man, I'm explaining this pretty bad, but basically shock damage works against everyone, and that's why I'm using this. So it's a lot easier to just keep one Sandhawk on you at all times, rather than switching between them. It's just annoying. Anyways, why do I have the Corrosive Sandhawk and the Corrosive Relic? There are a number of very powerful corrosive bosses, or enemies that are susceptible to corrosive damage, who are bosses, and they will really, really mess you up unless you have a good corrosive setup. And not Bonehead. Bonehead's not a big deal at all, please. You don't need to switch out all the corrosive stuff for him, but later on you'll get some pretty powerful enemies, which you'll be seeing pretty soon here, that you're going to need some kind of corrosive setup to be able to defeat them, or it would help a lot. Anyways, what was I going to talk about next? Some warnings that some definite tips that I would like to give you. If you guys are soloing this with the Siren, watch out for the following things: Surveyor bots, and badass Surveyor bots. Surveyor bots are gonna piss you off. They're gonna piss you off real bad. I promise, if you are gonna try to use the setup and go with the Siren, or maybe any other character that involves the B shield, man, those Surveyor bots are gonna be a pain in the absolute butt. Because, as you guys know, any damage that you take is gonna make you vulnerable, because you'll be without your B shield. So when you have there are points throughout this campaign where you're gonna have 5, I don't know, maybe even 6 or usually 4 Surveyor bots that spawn at the same time, and sometimes they are badass and sometimes they are not, but they'll just fly around and throw those shock balls at you, and it's very difficult to take them out with the Siren. You don't really have a good weapon to do it, and basically the only way to do it is phase lock. So it's a pain in the butt, and just watch yourself, because those Surveyor bots, man, ooh, they're gonna piss you off. They're gonna piss you off more than they've ever pissed you off before. I can promise that. Anyways, let's talk about the gameplay a bit. Right here, this is the arena. We're at about the halfway mark for Digistruct Peak. This overpowered level of 8. Normally, when you're in the earlier levels, this would actually be the last stage that you go into before you complete it. But obviously, we're at overpowered level 8, so we'll be going further. But I do want to talk about this part a little bit. There are a lot of different variations of how this might happen, but basically you're going to be fighting the 4 assassins. So Assassin Watt, Assassin Wani is his name, Wani, Assassin Wreath, and Assassin Roof. So these guys, they can spawn at different intervals. Usually when you're at these later levels, they will spawn 2 at a time. So at the earlier levels, they'll probably only spawn 1 at a time before you kill them all, and then later levels will spawn 2 at a time. And then even later levels, the max overpower levels, they will spawn 2 at a time with a lot of other enemies. So in my case, in this level, I actually had a bunch of turrets that spawned, so that was a pain in the butt. And you'll get, sometimes it's a bit rare, but the 4 of them may all spawn at once, and that may be the level. If you have that case, oh boy, that's trouble for you, because all 4 assassins at once may get you killed real bad. But as long as you have the Norfleet with Immolate, I didn't use it in this video. I don't know why I didn't use the Fire Norfleet, but you should be good to go. And as you can see, I did go down a few times already, and it's just important to be careful, because if you can easily get surrounded in this area. And there's the commerce, by the way. They do drop their unique weapons, all the mini bosses in this DLC. By the way, this part is a little crazy. This is actually, the recording you're seeing right now is the first time I've actually done Overpowered level 8. This is my first attempt at it, and I managed to complete it. However, this one took me by surprise. We got two Saturns at the exact same time, and that's pretty crazy. And the thing that's silly about Saturn is, although Saturn doesn't spawn right away, like, you know, when it's doing that digital spawning animation and they're like just in the middle of spawning and it got all that, you guys know what I mean. But when in the middle of the spawning, Saturn isn't spawned yet, but his turrets are. His turrets, as soon as Saturn starts to spawn, its turrets will be shooting at you immediately, and that's kind of annoying. I wish they would fix that, or maybe they purposely made it like that to make it more difficult so I couldn't run away in time. I don't know. And then they started jumping up on this hill all crazy, and I got really scared, so I don't know, fell back all the way to the last stage in order to kill them. It's pretty difficult, and it took me completely by surprise. I had no idea that two Saturns were going to come out at me at the same time. Usually, in the later rounds, you'll have only one Saturn, and even before that, you won't have any Saturns at all. You'll just have a normal wave of enemies to fight. So, it took me by surprise. It was a little crazy, but basically, the whole basic thing that you gotta follow in order to complete Digistruct Peak is you gotta be careful, you gotta take your time, you gotta be a little sissy when you play with the Siren, because Siren can die pretty easily. Siren is very vulnerable in this game, I'll tell you that right now. Anyways, this is the final boss fight. If you get to Overpowered +8, this boss has a guaranteed pearlescent drop. Now, I'm actually don't know if he drops the new pearlescent weapons. I farmed him about 10 times as the recording of this commentary, and so far he's only dropped some of the older pearlescent weapons, like the Storm, the Stalker, the Bearcat, the Butcher, all of those ones. I haven't got one of the new pearlescent weapons from this boss yet, so I'm not sure he has a chance to actually drop these new ones, but I know for a fact that he has a 100% chance to drop any of the old pearlescent weapons. And yeah, so I have no idea. I'm gonna have to do some more testing. Maybe it's just a lot more rare, I'm not sure. But if anybody has gotten any of the new pearlescent weapons from this boss, leave it in the comment section below and let me know, because I don't know yet. Anyways, this boss fight can be a bit difficult if you get caught off guard, because he can take you down pretty easily, and you gotta watch yourself. So if you ever get in trouble with the Siren, hide behind this building as best as you can. Make sure none of his missiles get around to you, and then basically throw out some magic missiles or whatever grenade mod you have, and you can replenish your health. And it was actually a bit silly here, because this was my first time doing Overpowered +8, so I actually didn't see the pearlescent drop. In fact, I think I walked right over it at a point in this little search for the loot. So I was looking through the loot. No, did not expect to have any legendary pearlescents at all, because the previous 7 times in the first 7 overpowered levels, I did not get anything good from this. But turns out it did have a pearlescent drop with it, and I walked right over this storm, and I was just like, man, I was derping it out right now. So I looked back and I was like, garbage loot, purples, blues. Oh damn, that's a pearlescent, and I went to go pick it up. So that's real nice, man. It's a pretty good thing that they have, where you can get a 100% pearlescent drop. Somebody has a tutorial out on actually how to do this in 3 minutes, and it's basically a glitch where you can get through the map and get immediately to the final boss fight. And if you want to check that out, I believe Baru has a video on it, Gathalion does, and I don't remember the person who actually discovered it. I don't even know if he has a YouTube channel or not, but anyways, that is just about it for this whole Digistruct Peak thing. I'm probably going to be doing more videos about this. Maybe try to solo it with the other characters. I'm not sure. By the way, you never get anything good from the quest rewards, really. Just purple items. Anyways, hope you guys enjoyed the video. There's my build one more time. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll be seeing you next time. Goodbye.